on first aid, and I wanted to show you 3 first aid kits that I usually carry around. This one here is the Adventure Medical Kit's 2-person hiker kit. Now, like I said before, I have modified and added stuff to this. The other one is the very first first aid kit I ever put together. This thing is very old and it's beat up, and I've carried it for years. The cool thing about this is, back in the day, when you went to Walgreens, you could buy any 3 first aid items, and they would give you this case that you could start your first aid kit in. And I had 2 or 3 of these, and I've given them away to friends who were hiking and stuff. Never gotten any of them back. But I still have this one, and this one went with me for years, and sometimes still goes in the backpack, but it's kind of beat up. Then I want to show you the 3rd one, which is my car kit that is much, much bigger than either one of these 2. This thing here is modular, and part of it will go out and goes into the inch bag that I showed you. I showed you that medical roll. Well, I want to show you the entire thing that I put together that goes along to support that medical roll. I'm going to start out, though, with the Adventure Medical Kit, because this thing here comes pretty good. A lot of pre-bought first aid kits aren't that great right out of the box. These things here aren't too bad. I added one of these little Primacare, what is it called? This here, the first aid CPR shields. And this isn't just a thin plastic. This thing is, it's not been used. This thing actually has the one-way valve on it and everything. And it's got this nice little carrying case. It's sealed up. I just use it as a zipper pull, so it's right there when I need it. And inside this thing, like I said, I've added some stuff to it. Number 1, I've added a lot more gauze pads, the non-stick variety. See, it didn't come with a bunch of the little ones, but I put some of these 4x4 inch ones in, just because if someone's bleeding, you want to have the capability to stop the bleeding. Now, I can't have a whole lot of sponges in here, but this is better than it came with. I also have one of these little ace bandages. I'm an old school guy, and I think these things are handy to have. This isn't the tape, this is the actual old school that has the clips on it, but they still work. I have this Nextera tape. This is the medical tape that has the plastic and the holes in it that makes it breathable. I think this is the best medical tape you can buy. I don't like the paper stuff, and I don't like the, what do you call it, the athletic tape. I don't like that stuff as much as this. This here is actually much better. I try to incorporate some face masks into my medical kits. And this thing here is really good because these are made by Curade, and these are antiviral. These things are fairly expensive, but they actually have some sort of concoction in here that actually, if viruses hit this, they're neutralized somehow. These things are like, you get 10 of them in a box, and they're almost like $15, but still very handy, and I try to keep at least one of these in every small medical kit. I also put this, I found these are the smallest set of EMT shears I've ever seen. They have such a tiny handle, but they still work as good as the regular EMT shears. They were small enough to fit in this bag, so I decided to put them in there. Alright. I put this in. This is a triangular bandage with the safety pins and everything. It's sterile, and I've got a couple of these floating around in different kits. But this thing here is very handy to have. This here is also a very good blood stopper. This thing was kind of light on the medical supplies when I first got it. These are the ones that came with it. These are the littler, smaller pads. These are the 3x4s. And then they have the little 2x3s pads here. And there's a few of those in there. 1, 2, 3 of them. I've also got some of these old-fashioned butterfly closures. They still work. A lot of people don't use them anymore, but I still like them. I've got quite a few of them in here because you never know when you might have one small deep puncture wound. I've got all these little spot bandages just because for kids, if they get a boo-boo, even if it's not dangerous, kids like to have a Band-Aid put on it, and it helps a lot. And I've got these antiseptic towelettes. These are not the very good ones. These are the ones that came with the kit. The ones I prefer are these B&D alcohol swabs, and these are the ones I put in. There's a few more in there. And even better than that are the larger ones here. These came with it too, but these are better than the little ones. Still only get about 1 drop of alcohol on them. it came with some Q-tips, and that's a good thing. I think it's good to have Q-tips in a first aid kit. It's also got, I added some of these knuckle Band-Aids because most things are lacking in Band-Aids. It came with these Top Care Band-Aids, and there's another knuckle. And I added some of these large ones for larger wounds. Let's see here. And it came with a lot of this little prepackaged stuff. Like, let's see here. Let's get it out of there. Came with, like, this is burn cream, a little tiny thing of burn cream. And there's a couple of those in here, I think. And then there's some triple antibiotic ointment. See that? There's a few of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. I wish there was more burn cream in here. I've added some things like Pepto-Bismol and a few things of, Dayquil liquid tabs. By the way, these are busted, so I'm going to tell you from now on, here's a tip for your first aid kits. Don't use liquid tabs in them. Dayquil now makes the actual solid capsules, and that's what's in the other backpack. This thing, like I said, doesn't get used as much since I made the other one. But this thing right here, it's a good idea, but unless you can put these in some sort of sealed vial so they'll be protected, it's not very good. Let's see. Here's some Afterbite insect relief pads, and this has got some of that Dayquil stuff on them, but they're still good. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them there. And here's a set of tweezers that I bought. They're not medical, but you could use alcohol wipes to clean them, and they have very good precision tips on them. You can see that. And there's a sharp one and then a flat one like this. And I think having some good tweezers in certain situations is a good thing. Alright. I added some decongestants because you never know. These are here really good for sinuses or anything like that. And they're also, if you absolutely had to, it's diphenhydramine, so it can make you go to sleep. It's also got like acetaminophen, which is basically Tylenol. It's got diphenhydramine again, ibuprofen, anti-diarrheal, which I think is important in any thing. And I added this. These are little single-use Visine things. These are like eye drops, and you can buy these in a packs of 5. You just break this tip off, and you have a couple of drops. You can see that in there of eye drops. Now, this thing right here, like I said, this is a good one for like boo-boo kits and some minor injuries. Most of the stuff that has these little packages like this or here came with the kit. But I did modify it some. And this here, like I said, I bought this kit and added to it, and this kit it's good for a one-person kit. I like it because of, it's a decent size, but it doesn't take up that much room in the backpack for what it is. I want to show you the other kit. Now, this kit is old, and it's been used a lot, and it's not in the best of shape. I haven't changed it much. But first, I'm going to take all this off the table. Alright. This kit right here is the very first kit I put together, and this thing up there went with me to work, and went with me when I was hiking and camping. This thing has been through a lot. This thing is jam-packed full of stuff, but it's been a long time since I've opened it. Alright. This thing opens up so you can see things a lot better. Got a roll. It starts out with just a roll of gauze and a little first aid book. I've got a couple of these floating around. And then these are the fabric bandages, which stick better than the actual plastic ones. I've got a little thing full of gloves. This came with one of these kits, but it's good. And there's my neck stair tape, the good stuff. And I actually have a roll of that fabric tape, which I don't like, and I think it was in that other kit, that Adventure Metal kit, and I bought it and I just threw it in here. But these are here is the best tape. This is Nextel 3M tape. Sticks better. Alrighty. This is the best balm I've ever seen. This is just a generic ultra strength pain relief balm. You don't get much in this little jar, but this stuff is like icy hot on steroids. This stuff is good for sore muscles, and it works very well. This is not even opened. I have like 20 or 30 of these floating around the house. They cost $1 at the store I buy them at, and they're the best. All right. On this side over here, I have the Orajel knockoff. Basically, it's I buy a lot of stuff at this discount store, and it's pretty much the same thing, except that this stuff, instead of $7 a tube, this is $1 a tube. And I have triple antibiotic ointment, and this actually has a pain reliever in it as well. And I have 2 tubes of that. They changed the packaging, but they made you got it bigger with that one. And I had a bottle of iodine in here that breached on me, so there's a few things in here that have got brown iodine on them. I'm not sure these will still be good. Like I said, this is a very old kit and doesn't get used much anymore. I got tiny Band-Aids. I got more of those butterfly closures. I actually have real Band-Aid brands. So, like I said, this kit right here is just a nostalgia thing for me. In a way, more butterfly closures. Now these are the best wipes you can buy when it comes to antiseptic wipes. These things right here, antibacterial moist wipes. These things are thick. They have a lot of juice in them, and they're a fairly good sized pad. These things here, you can pretty much clean up your hand if your hand is dirty with these. These things are like the best pads I found. I have some more Q-tips because I believe they're very valuable. More of those wipes. Another good set of tweezers. These are just makeup tweezers that women use, but they're not bad. I actually have a set of really nice needle nose tweezers in this little thing. This isn't exactly medical, but it's a Vaseline lip therapy. You never know when you might need that. Then I have like a whole different kinds of medication like aspirin. This is Bayer and Pepto, and there's not many left of that because I've used them out of here. The important thing out of this one is I have another one of those Curate masks. Like I said, I try to have those everywhere because you never know. But this thing has a lot of pads, of thick blood-absorbing pads. It looks like they got iodine on these too. By the way, that's another tip. If you're going to put bottles of liquid in your first aid kits, put them inside a Ziploc bag or something in case the top comes off. That's a lesson learned here. But these are like Surgipads and Top Care. Like I said, this is a very old kit, and yeah. There's an interesting little thing. It's just an eye patch. It's just a little eye pad that goes over your eye. And I got these little gauze pads that are just, they're not even like sponges. They're just folded up gauze. And I've got, like I said, I've got a lot of blood stoppers here. If you look at this, I believe that stopping that bleeding is one of the biggest things. And this is a thick, thing of them. I've learned a lot since then, and I don't put bottles of iodine in my where can get to my other stuff now. Let's see here. There's more Band-Aid. Then I get to the pharmacy, and this has been used a lot, so I have just regular aspirin. Then I have a bunch more of these little triple antibiotic ointment pads, more. Let's see here. That's Tylenol. I just use these little things from the drugstore, these little Walgreens Ziploc bags. They work good for pills. And this thing in here, that's about everything in here. There's a fresh nap. That's not even just a moist towelette, and that's probably dried out by now. And a couple more of these little eye drop things. These things, I like to have at least one in these little kits. The big kit has more, which I'll show you in a minute. This first aid kit, like I said, don't take anything into it. It's very old and it's very beat up. And they end up, if you use them a lot, they start ending up looking like this. This one's basically been retired at this point. I'm going to redo it and probably refresh it with new stuff. Alright. I mainly wanted to show you those two kits because they were in the other videos and I wanted you to see what was in them. And I think they're good enough for small to mid-size injuries. You're not going to set a bone with that, but I mean, I believe that you should have a kit that at least has some value. And a lot of the ones you buy, like the little plastic ones, they don't really. All they have are Band-Aids and some aspirin. I mean, they're not really that much. Reminds me of Dave Canterbury. He once said something about his last aid kit, is what he called it. He said all he needed was some BC powder, some duct tape, and a bandana. He said if that won't fix it, then he needs a doctor. I always thought that was funny. All right, but I like to go overboard when it comes to planning stuff. And my car kit is the definition of overboard, because this is it right here. This thing has got multiple pockets, multiple things in it, a lot of capability. This is actually better and more capable than I'm trained to use. But there's been a few times that I've seen and read about when, during like a car accident, there could be a doctor or a paramedic who's off duty and he might not have a medical kit. If I was there, I could hand this to somebody who was more trained than me and they could use it. Or if I'm hurt and somebody's better trained than me, they can use it for me. So, but like I said, I'm not stupid enough to try to actually use some of the things in here, like unless it was an absolute emergency. But, it is a capable kit. This first package is what I'm going to show you first. This first little thing here, this is a blood pressure cuff. I used to be, this thing here is a, you never know. Having blood pressure cuff used to be good. My grandmother always needed something like this. She had high blood pressure, and checking her out was a good thing. And of course, checking someone's vitals in an emergency situation could be important. And to go along with that, of course, I have the stethoscope. And this thing is actually, I'll just say, this is the cheapest stethoscope that actually works well that you can buy. Comes with extra earpieces and an extra thing for this, but it works and it's a good stethoscope for the money. Alright. Now, I have a blood sugar testing kit here because of my roommate's ex-wife was diabetic, and I thought it was good and important to have this on hand. This is an extra one that she had, of course, had all her stuff. I bought this just in case, but you never know. This has got all the strips, and the punch, and the lancets are in here, and the little, what is it? Oh, that is a sterilizer, I think. Now, I myself am not diabetic, but I think this would be handy in certain situations. I have a little pad here. This is just a memo book to write things down. Of course, I have some pens and stuff. You never know. We might need to take a note. I have one of these little squeeze bulb things. This here is just like it's a medical version of a turkey baster, but it's good for like suction or irrigation. You could fill this full of water and spray water on it. It's good to, well, it soaks up blood, let's be honest. That's everything out of this pouch in the middle here. Yeah, well, there's a couple more pins in there. There's two side pouches. This first one here is all bandages and stuff like that. I've got many rolled gauze in here. I have got the really, really large adhesive pads. These here are large pads with adhesive around the side, and I've got several of these. These are here good for really, really big wounds that aren't really deep. I have these full emulsion, these adaptive non-adherent dressings. These are like gauze with Vaseline and oil on them to keep them from sticking to wounds. These are very good, and I've got several of these, and these are highly expensive. But these are here really good dressings for, they'd probably be good for burns, things like that. I have a lot of these abdominal surgical pads. These things are very, very thick. These things soak up a lot of blood if necessary, and this thing is jammed packed with mostly gauze and little different sizes of pads of different kinds. This is most of these are either large blood sponges or non-adherent dressings. These are non-stick pads, and I've got stacks of them. This entire thing is jammed packed with just medical sponges and blood stoppers. I got the very small ones and I got the very big ones. Let's see. And there's probably about 5 or 6 different rolls of gauze in here. And I dropped one on the floor. Good thing it's packaged well. See, now this is what I learned. Keep your medical pads and all your bandages in a separate place where you know where they're at. And make sure there's no liquids around. This other pad is what I call the pharmacy. I keep all the various different medications in here and other stuff. I have one of these Rexall finger splints. This thing has not been used yet and it's been beat up, but the package is beat up, but the splints are still good. Thing of nasal spray because you never know. A bunch of these absorbing pain relief pads. These things are really good because they're if you have sore, aching bones. You don't see this in a lot of first aid kits. This is a Demtech temporary filling kit just in case. And some of these I've used. Like this here is a cold and allergy thing. And it's still full, but the other one got used last time we got sick. Like I said, this is a kit that gets used a lot. More triple antibiotic ointment. This thing has a whole thing of Q-tips. Various different things. Ibuprofen. That's Tylenol. Let's see here. Oh, these are really good. Halls. A lot of cough syrup. And these have to be replaced a lot. These are the Halls Cherry. And then I've got also the Luden's cough drops. I've got several of those. These are really good. And I've got the Halls Honey. And I've got even more ibuprofen and Tylenol because you never know. More of that dent, more of that stuff. 2 of those. More Oragel ointment. I got a couple of those because they're different kinds and they were the same price. Hydrocortisone cream for itches and stuff like that. More fabric bandages. I highly believe that fabric bandages are the ones that should be used better than the plastic ones. They work so much better. Here's something that's very important for cold and flu seasons. This mucus relief stuff. It's like Mucinex, but it's generic. But it's as good and works really good. More Oragel. I believe right there that I have like 4 tubes in here. But if you have a toothache, it's the worst kind of thing to have without help. So, and this isn't a kit just for me. So, I've actually given these away to people who are having toothaches, so it's a good thing to have extra. And a little bit of Benadryl. There's more medicine in the roll in here. That's everything out of the side pocket. Now let's get into this. Let's get inside this thing. Like I said, this thing is the kit that usually sits right beside me in my car. It's either on the passenger seat or sitting in the floorboard passenger side. And right on top, another one of these Curate masks. This thing right here is very handy to have. Like I said, I talked about those. Alright. If you hike a lot, foot powder is a good thing. This is just in there on the side. Alright. An entire bottle of alcohol. And some people will give me grief about this, but peroxide. It's good for if you dilute it for, it's a good antiseptic. I don't know about using it directly on wounds, but it's good for cleaning surfaces. I have Top Care Burn Relief. This is mainly for sunburn, but it does have lidocaine in it, and it can be used for most burns. I have an entire bottle of Band-Aid Hurt-Free Wound Antiseptic. This is just for cleaning wounds. These are here, if you have a deep cut, you can use this, spray it on, and rinse it out before you cleaning the wound is a lot more important sometimes than bandaging the wound. Alright, I have an entire bottle of hand sanitizer, a big bottle. This has not even been opened yet, but this thing right here, handy to have. You can use this you can use it to sterilize wounds as well. Alright. I have 2 heavy duty. These are trauma blankets. These are these are highly reflective mylar and orange on the inside, both of them. Somebody goes into shock, you need to keep them warm. This thing right here reflects the heat back. It's and it's not those little cheap Mylar things. I like them, but they're not as good. I also have a real, honest-to-God blanket that this thing right there unrolls. It's like a twin size. It's for the size it is. It's like made out of that felt stuff, but it's very warm for its size, and it's also good for trauma. And I also have an arm sling because you never know. You might need that. I have another one of those Curate masks, and this is taking a beating, but these are vinyl gloves because people do have latex allergies, so I use vinyl as much as I can, or nitrile. This box has been in here a long time, and I think it needs to be replaced, but it's taking a beating. But the gloves inside, they're not sterile, but let's face it, you're not going to have sterile conditions when you're working in the environment anyway. And then, let's see here. That's everything except the medical roll, which I'll have to clean off this thing to show you that. I consider the medical roll to be the primary first aid kit, and the rest of this is just a support for that kit. And this thing here is the Black Hawk medical roll that was inside that kit. This thing here is the primary medical kit that I take with me everywhere I go now. This doesn't always ride in that backpack, but if I'm in my car it is. But if I go out camping or hiking, this usually comes out at least. This thing is very large, very capable. Alright. And I want to show you as much as I can of this. Let's see here. Starting on this side right here, and we'll work our way this way. Alright? And in here, the very first thing you'll see that you may think is controversial is this is an entire minor surgical kit. There's a scalpel, there's sutures, forceps, medical shears, scalpel blades, probes, everything in this. And this, of course, you're going to say this is not sterile, but this can be sterilized by boiling and alcohol. But I'm not crazy enough to try to operate on someone, but having tools in your hand is better than not having tools. And there may be in a severe situation where someone needs these to perform something. It would be nice to be able to provide them. So I have them. I'm not sure if this is first aid or not, but this is a tick puller. This thing opens up. If you get a tick on you, you can just put this on, squeeze it, and it pulls the tick right off. If you're going to be camping or outdoors, it's a good thing to have. These are really cool. I don't know if any people have ever heard of that Celox wound closure powder. Well, this is the same thing in a gauze. It's not quite like QuikClot, but it's kind of like a piece of gauze that has that material in it. So I don't think it would cause as much of a problem for doctors to remove it. But if you need, it stops bleeding very fast, and I've got quite a few of them here. Alright, got some more of those really big, nice antibacterial wipes. A set of really nice tweezers because, like I said, tools are important. A whole lot of surgical dressings. There's a lot of them in here. And there's the little ones, and these are the big ones. And these are here are really good. These are the Tegaderm film. These are good for burns. These are good for like different kind of closures and stuff. I think you could use the packaging, just the plastic here, if you had like a gunshot wound, make a chest seal out of it. You might even, I don't know if the Tegaderm would work as a chest seal unless you maybe cut off one side. I think it's too breathable. But they're good for stuff like that. And this is the large size. What is it? 4 by 4.5 or 4 by 4 1/4. And then I've got the little ones as well. And I got a lot of them in here because, like I said, I want this thing to be capable. These are a bunch of little triple layer non-stick ones. I stuck these in a pack here because some of them, well, let's face it, this paper doesn't last very long. More of those Nextel masks. I already had some in the other thing, but I like every kit I have to be complete by itself. Moleskin. Not a whole lot of that, but you can use duct tape, and I always carry that. More of those adaptic bandages. These are those non-adherent oil dressings. These things are lifesavers in the burn situations. Got more rolls of gauze right here. I'm not going to take them both out. But right here I have more pads that are fairly thick. These are surgical dressings, so look at the thickness on these. They soak up a lot of blood. Then I have these here. These are like Steri-Strip generic. They have those little strips. They have super aggressive glue on them. They'll hold a wound together even after you bathe. They just do not wear off. And then more gauze pads here. Alrighty. Okay. Let's see. 2 more rolls of that tape, the good stuff. And then I have right here 2 more of the larger Ace bandages. These have never been used. Thank goodness, because when you use an Ace bandage, there's usually somebody hurt fairly decently. Let's see, they don't want to come out. Alright. I have 2 of these, both this size. I think the wider the ones, the better. And I have a muscle rub pad, and this is in a Ziploc bag because I told you I learned from the past. I have a thermometer with the thermometer covers because you don't, and this is in its case, and I have a whole bunch of the thermometer covers on there because you might not know the person that you're treating very well. And let's face the facts here, I don't want to get sick just because he's sick. Alright. And this one right here, this has been used a bit. This is a poison ivy cream. My roommate got into some a few years ago and actually used this. I'm pretty sure that this is probably close to out of date, but medicine usually can go a long way. I have an entire bottle of burn gel. This is the good stuff. I believe it there that if you get burned at a campfire or grab a hot plate or something, oh, you really want that. Now, a minute ago I said that I don't like the Mylar blankets, but here I have a Mylar blanket because I can't fit one of those big reusable ones inside this kit. But at least I have that. More Q-tips. You never know. Medical compartment here. I've got ibuprofen, and this I've learned to put the actual label off the packaging into it so you know the dosages. Most people already know the dosage for ibuprofen. And here's those Dayquil solid capsules that I was telling you about. This is what you should use instead of the liquid caps. Believe me, I found that out. Now, I do have a few liquid capsules in here, but they're individually packaged, and I put them in here. These are anti-diarrhea pills, and it's good to have, but like I said, not the liquid gels. These are generic Tylenol, acetaminophen, and Benadryl. These are aspirin. I got the bare label in there. And the last one is what do you call it? Naproxen sodium. I guess Aleve is what they are. All right, those things are there. I don't really find they work the whole 12 hours like people say they do, but it's good to have. Then I have a little Ziploc baggie here. This here has nasal relief spray, and this thing here has, this is really cool. It's a tiny bottle of chloroseptic spray. The good thing about this is this cap will come off so you can buy the big one and keep refilling this, but it's small enough to fit in here. I like that. I have one of these Benadryl itch relief sticks. These things are actually a lifesaver if you get a bad bite. More of the Oragel anesthetic. More hydrocortisone cream. And this here is chlorotrimazole. This is an antifungal cream. This is for problems with the feet or any other kind of fungal problem you may have. And another well-used tube of antibacterial arms. Another pair of ENT shears. let's face it, it happens. There's a hemorrhoid cream treatment because you never know. I have nitrile gloves and well, those are latex, but I also have the non-latex ones. A smaller bottle of hand sanitizer, and always good when you're dealing with first aid items to make sure your hand's clean. 90%. When you're working with someone with first aid, 90% of the chance of infection is your hands and the instruments you're using not being clean that's causing an infection. So you want to relieve as much of that as you can. Let's see here. Come out of there. Alright, this is another one of those temporary filling kits. I got lucky and scored a bunch of those for like nothing. They were like $1 a piece, so I bought a bunch. That's why you see so many of them, and they're handy. This is a child a liquid medicine thing. It's you can fill it for milliliters and pour it into a baby's or a young child's mouth so they can take medicine easier. You never know. I don't have any kids, but I may meet some that people have. Now this is something there might be a little bit of controversy about. This is a surgical stapler. This thing is preloaded with 35 staples, and this here will it's completely sterile, and it will staple wounds. I don't have a suturing kit in here because I've never really been able to pick up the hang of suturing. But this thing here, if you have a serious wound, this is a last resort. And I stress that, last resort. I would never use this unless I absolutely had to. And if you do put the staples in, you have to eventually take the staples out. And this is a disposable surgical staple remover. You never know when you may need that stuff. I have another one of those Primacare CPR breath shields. Good thing to have. This is along the same lines. This is really for babies. This is a medical dropper for putting liquid into a baby's mouth for medicine. It has the graduations on it. I would use that only for really small infants. This is an entire pack of those Visine or those eye drop one-use things, and I put them in a bag to keep them in case they busted. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 of those in there. And trust me, having Visine is sometimes a really good thing. I have a very large medical syringe here. This thing is mainly just for irrigating water or suction. There's no needle that goes with it, but this here was really good for if you need to clean the water. You can take that. You can take sterile water or that Band-Aid solution and use this to spray deep wounds. This is a Band-Aid compartment. I don't really talk about Band-Aids much, but these are the different size ones. Little ones all the way up to the big ones, and there's a couple of those antiseptic pads in there. Alright, here's what I do with the iodine now. It's in its own bottle, so I don't take chances anymore. This is decolorized iodine, small bottle. I make sure this thing is on tight, and it's sealed in its own bag because I don't want to take a chance of this thing breaching. And this right here is another one of those antifungal creams. This is a different version of it, and this is mainly for athlete's foot. Which is, if you're on the trail a lot, you could have all sorts of problems with your feet. And taking care of your feet is the #1 thing when you're moving. And that's everything out of this kit. Some people say it's a bit overdone, maybe drastic, but I like the idea of having capability as not having capability. My grandfather once said, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. It's like a parachute. If you don't, if you have it and you don't need it, you're fine. If you need it and don't have it, you'll never need it again. But, like I said, this kit is almost always with me. It's always in the car, so unless my car explodes, I have this. And if I'm hiking, this kit, just this roll part comes out, and it will go with me. There's a lot of capability here, and I hope you enjoyed the video. It's going to take me a while to put this thing back together, but if you feel free to leave a comment or tell me what you think if you have any suggestions for medical kits. A lot of people say put tampons and maxi pads in there because they're good for blood stoppers and stuff, but I honestly think that these are as good or better because these were designed to stop blood, and they were designed to stop, to treat wounds. Now, tampons themselves are good for deep penetrations like bullet holes, but in that case, I don't think I can do much for them anyway. I'm not, I'm not somebody who's trained to do bullet holes. So, I hope you like this kit. Let me know what you think, and